My guest today is Chef David Rule, and I'm excited because we are going to talk about food and culture and the mountains, and you really encompass all of that. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So let's first just talk about your journey into becoming a chef. When you look at your life, we're talking about your mama and growing up in East Tennessee.
Yeah, for sure.
How do we make it all the way to becoming an executive chef?
Oh, it's been a long journey. You know, I'm the youngest of three boys, so I always like to start there. I started cooking for myself really almost as a means of sustenance as the youngest child. You know, when we'd sit at the dinner table, being the youngest child, my older brothers would always get the largest portion. So for me, when I was able to start cooking for myself, this was my food.
That's
you
right.
know, so that's how it kind of started. And through the years, I spent a lot of time with my mama in the kitchen, and that's really where my love of cooking from scratch came from. In particular, the meal that she's most known for are big Southern breakfasts. Okay. And so she's making biscuits from scratch. You know, she's making sausage and gravy and bacon.
Come on.
We would have these big spreads of, you know, usually in the summer we have sliced tomatoes and melon and all these different jams and preserves. Those are some of my most fond memories.
I know we love good food, like you had it and it was good, but how did it eventually turn into, I could make a living out of this?
You know, it was much later. I, by chance, started in the restaurant business when I was 15 years old. I started a restaurant called Tally's 411 Restaurant in Maryville. And I started there not even cooking. I was doing a little bit of everything. I did a little bit of cooking, but I was washing dishes and bussing tables, waiting tables, running the cash register, did a little bit of everything. But that's the place that I really fell in love with the culture of the restaurant business. A little rough around the edges, but you know, the goal of serving people just struck a chord with me.
Over the years, when did you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is like my full-time career, and we're going to elevate it? Because a lot of folks open up restaurants like that.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah,
but yours is kind of next level.
Yeah. So a couple of years after that, you know, I was in high school, and the guidance counselors were talking to me about, like, what are you going to do the rest of your life? You know, what's your career path? What's your college path? Things of that nature. And I was already a couple years into the restaurant business, and that's when I made the decision to really stick with it. To be honest with you, I never had aspirations of opening a restaurant, but I'm glad that I did, and that just kind of came about organically. And that was several years later after working at several amazing places.
Okay, and I have to ask about that because your resume is fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Let's talk about some of the highlights of your career and where you've worked, because I have had quite a bit of your food over the years. I didn't know you.
Yeah.
We never met,
right.
But I had your food and it was good. So talk about some of those highlights.
Yeah, so two of the most major influences on my career, one, I worked for the Aubrey's Restaurant Group for a number of years. As a line cook, as a server, as a manager, and eventually as a corporate development chef. It was a great experience. They have an incredible business model. Most of the people in this area have been to an Aubrey's. It's just a great atmosphere and a great team. And then another big piece of my experience was at Blackberry Farm in Walland. And there, you know, I'm not traditionally trained in terms of culinary school. I have a degree in hospitality management, but I never went to culinary school. And for me, Blackberry Farm was my culinary school. I was exposed to things there that were incredible. You know, I was exposed to wine, one of the best wine collections in the world. Fresh ingredients coming out of the garden. Learned a lot about seasonality, even more so than I learned from when I was a kid from my mama and my papa's garden. And just, you know, took hospitality to a whole nother level there. And so that place is near and dear to me in my heart. And that experience, I couldn't have traded for anything.
What was the hardest part on that learning path? Because you got to think, you know, there's a standard there, as with a lot of luxury resorts or luxury places. What was the hardest part, the learning curve for you?
You know, there have been a lot of challenges through the year. At Blackberry in particular, I remember when I first started there, what I perceived fine dining to be was slow and methodical. Now, it's definitely methodical, don't get me wrong, but it's not slow. And from my time at Aubrey's, I'd learned fast. And that's something that, that was a big challenge for me because, my anticipation of fine dining coming into that was, you place the chive very gently on the plate with the tweezers, and now you do that, you take your time, it is very methodical, but it is fast. The sense of urgency is huge in all levels of restaurant. So that was a huge learning curve for me in the kitchens at Blackberry.
Let's talk about the Appalachian, because that is
Absolutely.
yours.
Yeah.
For those who have never been to it, give us an idea of what the feel, the vibe is
Yeah,
of
for
that
sure.
restaurant.
So first and foremost, the Appalachian is located in historic downtown Sevierville. And historic downtown Sevierville has been under revitalization over the past 6 to 7 years. It's located just behind the iconic courthouse there in downtown, but it is growing incredibly, and there's an amazing amount of life coming to that downtown area. And we are somewhat of a cornerstone in that downtown area for that revitalization. Now, for the restaurant itself, we very intentionally named it the Appalachian with the idea of turning the connotation of what is Appalachian cuisine on its head a little bit. The idea for the restaurant is for it to be very contemporary view of Appalachia, and you can see that just in the decor. So I, with my team, were very intentional about when you walk into the restaurant and you're in the main lobby, you see a wall that's coated in barnwood. There's a mural on the side of the wall that's a pasture scene, very much what you'd feel from Appalachia. But once you round the corner, it's a little more refined. There's a lot of gorgeous woodwork. It's dark black with brass and gold accents. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to bring some, we wanted to refine a little bit the connotation of Appalachia.
So a little less mom and pop kind of looking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we wanted to show that there was some refinement here in our cooking as well. And like I said, it's a very contemporary look. So, while we will throw some of the things on our menu that you would consider with Appalachian pinto beans and cornbread and fried chicken, things of that nature, you'll see those on the menu.
You're making me hungry. Go ahead.
Yeah. But what we like to do is we like to tweak those a little bit. We like to take modern techniques to some of these classic Appalachian ingredients and present them to our guests. Our mainstay for the Appalachian is all about telling the story. And for us, every dish that we put on the table, every drink that we put on the table, there's a story behind it. It can be about the chef and their influence towards that dish. It can be about the farmer and them producing that dish or the product that is in that dish, or it can be a combination of all those things. It's all about time and place for us right here and right now in Appalachia, as opposed to the history of.
So how do people receive that? Because now Southerners are very picky about their food.
Yes.
And when you go remixing things, it's like, now what's this?
It can be challenging. I've always said like chicken and dumplings, for example. I have never put a dish of chicken and dumplings in front of somebody. They've enjoyed it, but the response is usually, this isn't chicken and dumplings like my mama made it, or what I mean?
That's right.
Is it the flat dumpling? Is it the biscuit dumpling? How's the chicken cooked? Does it have vegetables in it? Does it not? So there can be some contention there, but it's all in good fun, and we can still tell the story about how we got to the place that it was there.
How enjoyable is it to do this, to take cuisine and, like you said, kind of turn it on its head?
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, the profession in general is great. I love it. I mean, to me, in the kitchen, it doesn't feel like work. To me, it's playing with food. We take it very seriously. I don't use the word play in terms of
no, play is
that
fine.
We don't. Yeah, but we get to play with food all day. we test the boundaries. We like to combine interesting flavors and challenge the palate a little bit.
Do you have a favorite dish?
I get that question a lot. I have some things that I absolutely love, like biscuits and gravy, for example. That goes back to my mama and all that sort of stuff. But my favorite thing is something that's new. I'm forever a student in the world of culinary, and anything that's new to me or that I feel like I haven't somewhat mastered is my favorite. I'll give you an example. This past year, we do it a little bit in the restaurant, but I've challenged myself on corn tortillas. Simple.
Oh, okay.
Super simple corn tortillas. I have a lady that works with us. Her name's Eloisa. She's from Mexico, and she's like the den mother. She takes care of us. She feeds us, and she makes these incredible tortillas, and I just can't get it. So that's just an example for me of like, it's new and I'm trying to figure it out. It can be Appalachian, it can be in Mexican cuisine, it can be in Vietnamese cuisine. But anything new for me is my favorite.
You like the challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
You like the challenge.
For sure.
Do you cook at home? Now, who cooks at home? Does your wife cook or do you cook?
We both cook. Okay. And my wife is an incredible cook. And, we've been together for over 20 years. And it's kind of a running joke. She's a lot better cook now than when we first started. She's picked up a few chops in the kitchen. And my kids are incredible cooks.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, if I don't know, I would be at home like, you got it. you're the one. You've got it.
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. But yeah, my friends and family are definitely some of my test crowd for some of my crazier ideas. They've had tortillas that I've been trying to make, once a week for the past year. But we also test out, some things in the restaurant as well.
How hard is it to be an entrepreneur? I mean, this area has such a huge restaurant, influx of restaurants in and out.
Right.
So it's not an easy journey. Tell me, what are some of your takeaways?
Yeah, there are some challenges. I wouldn't trade it for the world, though. I think the most challenging part for me are the parts that are outside of the day-to-day restaurant operations. When we're talking about service, we're talking about drink service, we're talking about food service, hospitality in general. It's great. The challenges for me can be more in the accounting and bookkeeping and HR and maintenance and things of that nature that I work on a day-to-day basis that tend to be more challenging for me. I am like the least structured person that you'll ever meet. I fly by the seat of my pants, which I think makes for good hospitality. I can turn on a dime and just make sure a guest has a great experience. But some of those other things, accounting, bookkeeping, HR, and maintenance, they require structure. So I surround myself with a great team that helps me deliver that structure.
That's tough when you're creative to have to do all this
Yeah,
structured
absolutely,
stuff.
absolutely. So, but I have enjoyed it so much.
Would you have any advice for a young chef that maybe wants to, get started and kind of take that path that you've taken?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about experience and real world experience, and also leaning into those things that you're not as familiar or comfortable with. If you have an extreme interest in how to cook a steak, that's great. Learn it, but understand what it takes to put the whole thing together. For me, is from construction and design in the beginning, and those relationships with those people, all the way through, like I said, now what I'm doing in terms of all those extracurricular pieces, marketing, PR, accounting, maintenance, and things of that nature that take to put the whole piece together. That'd be my best advice. I think it's easy for me because I always felt like the restaurant and the kitchen came naturally. Mm-hmm. I picked that up no matter what. But I could have done better to lean into some of those outside areas before going in to learn and understand and build myself a structure for those parts. I learned it more the hard way.
No, it's good. Hey, sometimes that's the way it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who is the most famous person you have cooked for?
Dolly Parton.
Wow. What a segue.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it, because you actually have a connection to her with one of your restaurants right now.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about both of those. I think it's been about a year and a half ago. We were at the restaurant. It was on a Monday night. We're normally closed on Monday, but sometimes we host private events.
Is that the Appalachian?
At the Appalachian.
Okay.
And we knew we had a private event this evening. So we were there, we were getting ready. It was just a normal private event day. And there was a gentleman that was in the back of the restaurant, behind the restaurant. He was kind of looking around, and we were like, can we help you? He's like, oh, I'm here with the party tonight. I'm just kind of looking around. I'm a little early. And we were like, okay, cool. Come on in. Make yourself at home. And he looked around inside, and then he turned around. He's like, okay, I want to let you know Dolly Parton's going to be here this evening. And, we kicked it into overdrive at that point, for sure,
Some jitters there? Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, she came with a group. They had dinner, and I had the opportunity to speak with her for a little bit, and she's as amazing as you would expect. Incredibly engaging. I had the opportunity to thank her for, the Imagination Library. We get those books at my house, once a month. And, she had a lot of questions about me and my history, which I was amazed by because...
She's Dolly Parton asking you about your
I
life.
know, yeah, it was wild. So, that was incredible. I had the opportunity to cook for a lot of celebrity type figures, especially when I was at Blackberry Farm, and we've had some in and out of the restaurant. But that experience itself was incredible, and we were able to get pictures, and I've got it hanging in my house, and that was a great experience.
There's nothing better than meeting a celebrity and they live up to the hype.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And they don't disappoint you.
Yeah.
She's one of them.
Yeah, she was.
So then we have to talk about the Pines downtown in Sevierville, because that location where your restaurant is actually where Dolly got her start in music.
Right. So the Pines has been re-envisioned as a venue for us. It's a gaming hall. We've got great games. We've got a big bar, great food. But it is originally opened in 1944 as the Pines Theater. And the Pines Theater is where Dolly Parton had her first paid gig as a singer.
The Cass Walker Show.
The Cass Walker Show. Absolutely. So a lot of great history there. And we had actually just opened the Pines when she came to eat at the Appalachian. Unfortunately, she didn't have time to come over there. She's a very busy lady, but we hope to get her in there soon. And we've got a lot of nods to her in the Pines, connecting that history back to the place itself.
Okay, so let's talk about food real quick. Let's get back on it.
Okay.
What is a dish you can't stand? No matter how people make it, you're just like, I don't know why people like this.
I don't know. I'm not very picky. I don't like spaghetti, which is weird. There's one spaghetti that I like.
Okay.
And that's at Louis here in North Knoxville. But it's not very traditional. But for some reason, the texture of the spaghetti noodle is strange to me.
Okay.
It's hard for me to eat a spaghetti that I like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not see
And
that
I've
one
got
coming.
kids. I mean, that's on our menu regularly, but my wife usually knows that, here's spaghetti for me and the kids.
Here's some baked chicken for
Yeah,
you.
I'd rather eat peanut butter and jelly or something that night. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But yeah, spaghetti's a hard sell on me.
What would you say is the most popular dish at the Appalachian?
Our fried chicken dish is huge, and it has a revolving set of components that come with it, depending on the season. Mm-hmm. In the Appalachian, we have a huge wood-burning hearth. It's 100% hardwood that we use. There's no gas elements. There's nothing like that. So we build a fire every single day, and we grill all kinds of meats on there. So the meats that come off of that 100% wood-burning fire tend to be the most popular. And there's just something extra about cooking the meats in that style that is super tasty.
Where do you see yourself 10, 15 years from now? What would you love, if in a perfect world, where would you be?
that's a tough question, but we intend to continue to grow as a restaurant group. You know, my goal is to create diverse and unique concepts. So I would not anticipate that there will ever be another Appalachian. There might be a restaurant that has a similar style and feel, but to me, the neighborhood, the team, the place, it dictates what that restaurant is. So for me, in 5, 10, 15 years, I would see us with multiple more concepts, unique concepts, within this region primarily. I would love to spread out all over the country, but I don't really have a huge need for that. I love East Tennessee and I love the Tennessee Valley, and I think there's plenty of opportunity, and I have plenty of interest in all kinds of food. You know, I love the Southern and Appalachian cuisine. I love barbecue, you know, things that we don't have restaurants of. I love Asian food. I love Mexican food, you know, things like that that we might dabble into over the years. So aside from that, you know, I'm a father, and that's kind of one of my largest priorities aside from the restaurant. You know, I intend to have grown kids that are well on their path to maybe taking over restaurants, you know.
That'd be great.
Yeah. But, you know, my goal as a father and as a husband, plan to pursue that in the next 5, 10, 15 years as well.
I was gonna say, you know, usually when we do interviews, we always ask women, like, how do you balance it all? But how do you balance it all?
Have a good team. You know, that goes to my work team and my home team. And, you know, family and friends surround me that support. And I've gotten pretty good over the years with my time management as well, you know. Delegation is key. Mm-hmm. But really just surrounding yourself by people that compliment you and that can see the vision, they'll inspire you every day to keep going. And it's motivation for me to push.
You see yourself staying in East Tennessee forever?
For sure.
This is home?
Yeah, you know, I'm born and raised in Maryville. I actually live in Alcoa now. You know, drive to Sevierville every day. It's not that bad of a drive, but
okay.
yeah, it's about 40 minutes. It's all back roads. It's nice.
Okay.
You know, at one point, as I wanted to pursue being a chef, I saw myself leaving, and I wanted to go to a big city and work in some of the nicest restaurants. You know, I was looking at New York, Chicago, San Francisco, London, Paris, Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
You know, I was ready. But, you know, my family kept me centered here, and I'm glad that they did. And at this point for me, there's no place that I'd rather be than East Tennessee.
Chef David Rule, thank you so much. Executive Chef at the Appalachian.
It's my pleasure.
You are awesome. Let me shake this hand delicately. These are cooking hands.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me.